What does Bonner's addition now mean for the Fever's title potential?
I think the Indiana Fever, with the addition of DeWanna Bonner after already adding Natasha Howard and Sophie Cunningham, are now in the championship conversation, along with the New York Liberty, the Minnesota Lynx, and the Las Vegas.
And her wife, Alyssa Thomas, is fuming. Instead of joining forces with Thomas over at the Phoenix Mercury, Bonner's packed her bags for the Indiana Fever to team up with none other than
DeWanna Bonner, while she's in Indianapolis for the Indiana Fever, she will be separated from her wife, well, soon-to-be wife, Alyssa Thomas. They are currently engaged, okay? Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner, for years, have been teammates at the Connecticut.
DeWanna Bonner has shaken up the WNBA, and her wife, Alyssa Thomas, isn't thrilled about it. Rather than reuniting with Thomas at the Phoenix Mercury, Bonner chose a different path, joining the Indiana Fever to team up with Caitlin Clark.
Like, when you go down the list of like all the trades and all the moves and everything, it takes you a while to get to DeWanna Bonner, but her going to Indiana is, I mean, with what they now have.
Wondering what's going on? We're about to break down how this move instantly turns the Fever into championship contenders, and why Alyssa Thomas isn't too happy about it. Stay tuned to see how this power shift is shaking up the entire league. Ready? Let's jump in.
Six-time All-Star had a choice to make this offseason, and everyone thought it was a no-brainer.
As you scroll through the offseason trades and roster moves, DeWanna Bonner's name might not jump out right away. But make no mistake, her move to Indiana is a game-changer. With the talent they've stacked, the Fever aren't just another team.
Okay, that's a lot. Okay, she's going to be in Indiana and Indy, whereas her wife, Alyssa Thomas, will be in Phoenix Mercury. I'm sorry, she'll be a Mercury at Phoenix Mercury, but she'll be in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, two totally different regions of the U.S., right? So again, it's like the fact that I'm sure that money talked, and Stephanie White is the head coach. I would love to play for Stephanie White. She's an amazing.
Crazy, right? DeWanna Bonner just flipped the WNBA on its head, and it's not just because of her killer crossover. The six-time All-Star faced a huge decision this offseason. Most people thought it was a done deal. Join her wife, Alyssa Thomas, in Phoenix and go after another championship. But guess what? They were wrong.
I am ready to proclaim the Indiana Fever as your WNBA.
Let's talk about what Bonner brings to the table. She's not just any player. She's a walking bucket with 2 championship rings and a resume that reads like a basketball wish list. At 6 feet, 4 inches, with a wingspan that makes airlines nervous, Bonner can guard multiple positions and knock down threes like she's playing a game of Pop-A-Shot. In the 2024 season, she averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds per game, shooting over 41% from the field. That's the kind of consistency that makes coaches sleep easier at night.
Bonner adds versatility for them. Coming into this offseason, they needed a stretch 4, a player who could run the floor. They got that in Howard and they got that in Bonner. They also got versatility by signing DeWanna Bonner. Not necessarily the sexiest, biggest name signings, but the pieces they needed to contend for a championship. I think now Indiana is in that championship conversation.
She stunned everyone by choosing Indiana instead. But why? The Fever haven't come close to a WNBA Finals appearance in years. So, what did Bonner see in Indiana that made her take the leap?
Pressed the Fever management so much they decided, if you can't beat them.
In DeWanna Bonner, the Indiana Fever have signed one of the all-time greats who brings major big game experience to Indiana along with her. Bonner is a 2-time WNBA champion and quite literally the most experienced postseason player ever. Her 87 playoff games are more than any player in WNBA history.
She stunned everyone by choosing Indiana instead. But why? The Fever haven't come close to a WNBA Finals appearance in years. So, what did Bonner see in Indiana? Let's break down what Bonner brings to the table. She's not just any player. She's a walking bucket with 2 championship rings and a resume loaded with accolades. Standing 6 feet 4 inches with a wingspan that could make airlines jealous, Bonner is a defensive nightmare, locking down multiple positions while sinking threes like it's target practice. In the 2024 season, she averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds per game, shooting over 41% from the field. That kind of consistency is every coach's dream. It made her.
Bonner is still playing at a very high level. She is a 6-time All-Star, making the All-Star team in each of her last 2 seasons, and has gotten MVP votes in 6 different seasons, including last year. Her length makes her a major weapon on both ends of the floor, allowing her to get shots off regardless of how tight the defense is and finish in tight quarters inside. Her game is multi-dimensional. She's knocked down more than 600 threes in her career, but she's also very effective as a driver, a slasher, and a passer.
The Fever already had key pieces in place, but now, they're officially in the championship conversation. But stats only tell part of the story. Bonner has a knack for showing up when it matters most. In the 2024 playoffs, she put up 37 points across 2 games against the Fever and even took on the tough task of guarding Caitlin Clark. Talk about an on-court job interview. She must have impressed the Fever's front office so much that they thought, if you can't beat her, sign her.
Was the reason for putting you on Caitlin? Usually, Dejanay guards her.
Just game planning, trying to come up with a strategy. They beat us last time, so we had to do something different. Yeah, that was about it. It was nothing behind it. They got 2 great guards, so somebody got to step up and play defense. And I mean, that's the only way to beat them. So just took on the challenge, and she's a great player. I know next game she's going to come out firing. So got to go back, watch some video and see what we can do. But there was nothing behind it. I mean, that's the only way we can win, honestly.
Now, imagine being Alyssa Thomas right now. Your wife just chose to team up with a rising superstar instead of you. That's got to sting, like a bee sting, but with way more bite. Thomas is probably watching game tape, thinking about what could have been in Phoenix.
You've been asked to do something today that you haven't done all season. Guard Caitlin Clark. She's 0 for 3 when you're defending her. How have you made your presence felt there?
Well, let me knock on some wood real quick. She's a great player. I know she's going to come out second half ready to go, so I got a key in.
But Bonner's decision wasn't just about basketball. It was about believing in a vision, even if it meant stepping out of her comfort zone. And let's be real, teaming up with Caitlin Clark is a pretty sweet deal. Yes, that Caitlin Clark, the record-breaking, ankle-breaking phenom. Bonner has admired Clark's game for a while, and now she gets to be part of the Caitlin Clark experience up close and personal.
And while Bonner has never played for the Fever before, she'll come to Indiana with plenty of connections thanks to her time in Connecticut, where she played 2 seasons under Fever head coach Stephanie White, assistant coach Austin Kelly, and player development coach Keith Porter. With Bonner, the Fever can now boast a starting lineup where all 5 players are also all-star.
And the Fever aren't stopping with Bonner. They've been making moves like a chess grandmaster on espresso. Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Colson are all joining the squad. It's like the Fever are assembling their own WNBA Avengers. Clark as Captain America, Bonner as the sharpshooting Black Widow.
DeWanna hopes to go head-to-head against Alyssa on the court.
If I make it, I'm going crazy.
So, why did DeWanna Bonner really choose Indiana over Phoenix? Sure, the chance to play with Clark is tempting, but there's more to it. Bonner is reuniting with her former coach, Stephanie White. It's like getting the band back together, only this time, they've got a new chart-topping lead singer in Clark. The Fever are done being the WNBA's punching bag. They're building something special, and Bonner wants in from the ground floor. She's seen the blueprint and thought, yep, that's my penthouse suite.
Take another look here at the heavy contact. A little bit of a shoulder there. Not a little bit, a lot of a shoulder.
Now, let's talk about Alyssa Thomas and how she's taking the news. Spoiler alert, not well. Known for her fiery competitiveness, Thomas probably feels like she just took the toughest L of her life. And in a way, she has. Her wife chose to team up with the very player Thomas has been trying to shut down. That's got to sting like betrayal on a galactic scale. You know that feeling when your best friend ditches you for the cool kids table? Yeah, now imagine that, but with WNBA stakes.
She want to go with her fiance, her wife, to Phoenix, Alyssa Thomas? The answer is no. She could have gone back to Phoenix, okay, where she played for many years, but instead, she goes to the Indiana Fever, who have now, just like that, of course, have Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, re-signed Kelsey Mitchell, got Natasha Howard and all of her playoff and championship expertise, and now DeWanna Bonner joins the Fever as well. And instantly, every weakness that Fever team had last year has been.
Thomas and Bonner weren't just teammates on the Connecticut Sun. They were a power couple on and off the court. They built something together, wins, chemistry, and a future. The plan was to take Phoenix by storm. But sometimes, life throws a curveball even the best athletes can't dodge. Instead of joining Thomas in Phoenix, Bonner packed her bags for Indiana. And guess who's waiting for her there? Caitlin Clark, the same player who's been living rent-free in Thomas's head all season. Remember that viral shoulder check? Yeah, talk about adding insult to injury.
When we were watching that playoff round with the Fever and the Sun in the first round of the W playoffs, one of the storylines or talking points was the lack of experience versus inexperience. I mean, the Sun were the most experienced playoff team in the playoffs between Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner and all the people that they had there. And the Fever were, of course, the most inexperienced. And right away, that changes and
we all know Thomas is intense. She plays every possession like it's Game 7 of the finals. But this has turned her trademark fire into a full-blown supernova. She didn't waste any time sharing her feelings. In a social media post that had fans buzzing, Thomas admitted the conversation was tough but said she understands and respects Bonner's decision. You can almost feel the heartbreak woven between the lines.